Hello everyone, my name is Crux and today we will be talking about jumps in part 2 of my tutorial series on track building in Hot Wheels Unleashed. So, jumps. Why are they important? Mainly because jumps are the one thing that Hot Wheels has going for it over all of the racing games, or at least a large majority of the more realistic ones. We can create insane jumps. We can take massive air and we have more control in the air than most racing games have. So, today we're going to be talking about how to build them, pitfalls that come with building certain types of jumps, the different things you have to consider while you're building jumps. But first, let's get started with the basics of just how to build them. So, your most basic jump is just a simple lip jump. So, we just go ahead and raise our initial piece here. This piece, the second piece, is always used as a trajectory marker for me. So this is the direction my car is going to want to go before gravity starts to take hold of it. So over time, gravity is going to start to pull the car down and level it out. So we can actually kind of just get a rough idea. So I'm thinking we'll probably make it about this far before we start to lose momentum. So when you're creating your landing, I always like to ease people into the landing. So I like to have a section that's on the trajectory that you're going to come down on, and then start to move that up over space so that people eventually ease into the landing. And that creates for a nice smooth landing process. So it's very important when you're building a jump to test it and test it often. The reason being that if you don't test jumps, they can be too long, they can be too short, you can overshoot them with boost. Definitely something to consider. Oftentimes you'll build a jump and you won't think the cars will go as far as they will, and you'll end up overshooting your landing. So it's definitely something important to keep in consideration while you're building jumps. If you do make a jump that'll be overshot, it's really frustrating for people, especially if they have no boost while they're approaching it. So let's go ahead and test our jump here. And yes, we seem okay. Perfect. So that's our basic type of jump there. It's just a simple jump. The second type of jump I'm going to show you is a step up. So your basic step up is as follows. So we're just going to have a higher trajectory on launch, and then we're going to go ahead and use this. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bend the tip down and then use the other middle bend to create a more vertical section throughout. And then there's our landing. And let's just go ahead and put a nice long section because I'm not sure how far that'll go. So that is a step-up jump, and the beauty of step-up jumps is you can actually use them as landing pads for another type of jump that I build quite often. And not so much of a jump, but still an aerial aspect of it is a drop. So we can actually just create a section where we drop into the track rather than jump up to it. Let's just go ahead and put our exit here. Perfect. So these are the three different types of jumps I build on a regular basis. The basic jump. Then I have my step up, which I haven't tested, so hopefully this works. And perfect. And then that leads into our drop off. So those are the three most basic types of jumps that every track builder should know how to build and should be pretty easy to build for them. So let's quickly cover some interesting aspects of the invisible section that we use to separate our jumps. So the invisible section actually has a couple interesting properties. So I'm just going to go ahead and guide us down over here for now. We will delete this after, but I need to be close to here. So the interesting thing about invisible sections is that, let's say my normal track, I try to put it through this box. It's not going to work. However, if I use an invisible section of track, the invisible section of track actually goes through objects. And what this means for us in jump building is that we can build jumps over objects, which makes for super fun and immersive gameplay. especially being a tiny car jumping over cans and bags and bars and things like that, benches. Super fun. However, the invisible track doesn't like to go through the floor. It will go through objects, however, and that's what's important to us. So let's back this up here a bit. All right, so let's show you an example of how to do this with invisible tracks. So let's say we wanted to build a jump over this here. So let's make sure our alignment is proper when we're launching. So there, that looks about right. So let's go ahead and make a lip, make sure that we're going over the object. I think we need to be closer. There. And let's go ahead and use our invisible track. And we'll go ahead and just create a lip here. And that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and put our invisible track here. And we'll just make sure we have a nice landing. Or in this case, because we're close to something, we could even place that landing on the ground. But let's just go ahead and leave that for now. And we'll go ahead and place the landing here. So something to consider is if we're coming into a wall, this is going to be rather difficult. So what we can do is, in lieu of using our jump landing in normal track, we can actually use make tracks. And what make tracks do is they grab you as you're coming into them. So it allows us to create jumps that have more interesting grab points than your average jump. Alright, so we're coming up to our jump here. Let's give it a test. And yes, we go straight through that. And onto the grab track we go. So, as you can see, the invisible track being able to clip through objects is actually super important, because it allows us to build things like this. Alright, so, considerations. We always have to be considerate of what's going to happen if we miss our jump. Something often, even me to this day, after building 30, 40 tracks, I still don't think about what happens sometimes if somebody has to reset. So if you have to reset and you only have one boost bar, sometimes certain jumps are just not possible. So what we do to fix this, because we can't take that into consideration for every type of jump, is we need to create a way for people to essentially get over if they miss it. So what I like to do, the easiest thing you can do is you can place a boost at the top if it's a really long jump. But our jump is short, and I don't necessarily want to have people flying way over it. So what I'm going to do in lieu of that is I'm actually just going to use a small charge pad here, so that if people respawn on, they'll charge up their boost, giving them enough boost in order to hit the jump. So let's go ahead and just quickly test this here. Alright, so somebody would spawn, they'd be able to charge up their boost, therefore giving them enough boost to get up enough speed in order to make the jump. So that's something definitely when you want to consider when you're building tracks. Oh, I missed again. Alright, can I make this jump on one boost? No, I can't. So I'm going to have to put a boost pad there as well. So definitely something really important to consider when you're building, because nothing is more frustrating than literally just being stuck on one jump. I'm sure as racers we've all experienced this. Somebody builds a jump, they didn't do the consideration of if you could make it without boost, and you're just stuck on it. So something absolutely critical to consider when you're building. Alright, so I skipped ahead a bit and built something that I find a lot of new track builders do quite often. And what that essentially is that it's a blind corner after a jump. Oftentimes I see newer track builders not considering the amount of time it takes to land a jump. And so what they do is they put a corner right after where you would essentially land, and you often overshoot it. And as a driver, nothing is quite as frustrating as building this way. So you have to always give yourself ample space to land before placing a corner so that drivers don't go flying off when they take the jump. Always have a nice long straight section on your jumps, landings, or have it tuned so that you land very, very tight to the jump. Give people enough time in order to adjust using either a boost down or B, have the jump built in such a way that it grabs you. Another thing to consider is that you can use mag tracks to essentially grab people on their way down. So mag tracks are actually great at this. So what they do is they actually make it so that when you're in the air, say you're coming up to this jump, what they'll do is they'll actually just grab you and yank you back to the track, reducing the airtime on certain types of jumps, which is super, super good in certain situations. All right, so I think that covers the basics of jumps. I'm going to discuss more different types of jumps in the features section, which will be coming soon. Thank you for watching. Peace out.